Hello, my name is Justin Leeper. I am was the writer, designer, and director on Road to WrestleMania 4, SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, 2010, 2011. So I'm here to discuss my firsthand experience making those games. Some of you maybe saw my videos talking about 2K20 and the debacle that it was. Hopefully some of you have watched my director commentary of the Road to WrestleMania games recently that I've been playing through. But I've been asked by this Gen Gaming, who really was one of the first YouTubers to reach out to me, and we had a dialogue and we forged a friendship. He wanted me to talk about this, about the demise of the mode. So some of this is going to come off as conceited or egotistical on my part, and I apologize if it does. I'm trying to be honest, because I was brought into THQ in 2007. I worked on SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 a little bit as I was getting my feet wet in the company, and then because I was a writer, because I was a performer, former pro wrestler, and I knew acting and was a decent storyteller, they wanted me to design this new story mode. And the impetus for this story mode was that past story modes were good, but you're kind of picking up a superstar and dropping him into the spotlight of these stories that don't really have much to do with him. And we would get performances from, basically like an Eddie Guerrero and an Undertaker reading the same lines, and it didn't have the same weight for both. So we thought, why don't we make storylines that really get to the bottom of these superstars and put you in their shoes and do a service to them and their characters. So that's what we did. 2009 went pretty well, got decent reviews. The few people that I got to talk to who played it liked it. By then we'd already moved on to 2010. We're working with interactive cutscenes, so mid cutscene you kind of stop and you can go one way or you can go the other way. So we had a lot of different endings for that. That went well. 2011 we did the free roaming backstage, which pretty much ballooned scripts from about let's say 50, 60 pages each to over 100 pages each. I had to bring in a writing team and then edit them, do that sort of thing. And, THQ tried to innovate. We really did. We tried to make cool things. And I think that if there's one of the knocks on 2K now is that they are so focused on making a sim and making it on brand that they kind of lose sight of the fun and coolness and innovation that maybe we tried to bring to the game. Now, did that always succeed? No, because, to me personally, I was not happy with the way free roaming backstage turned out. It was the first year of us doing it, so, there were a lot of kinks to work out, and I had left before the end of the project, so I was not necessarily there to shepherd it all the way, though I don't think that my leaving a little bit early would have had a huge impact on the quality, because Ukes was telling us we cannot get more than 6 people backstage. And I was trying to convince them, well, in Royal Rumble mode, you guys can have people leave and people come back in. Can't we just stream them in? No, we can't do that. It costs too much or it's too difficult. Okay, fine. So yeah, I left near the end of our development for 2011. I left in, I don't remember exactly, but it's about that time. And I went to my boss and his boss, and I said, hey, things are going great, right? I mean, this game is doing really well. It's scoring really well, selling pretty well. And, this guy is a big part of that, because this guy is a big part of Road to WrestleMania, and that's driving sales and driving review scores. And it takes a big chunk of the budget. I think it was maybe 17% of the budget. That number seems to pop up in my head, which is no small amount. Cutscenes cost a lot of money. Voiceover costs a lot of money. The motion capture alone, plus the production aspect, the assets, the models, all that stuff that we needed to make for Road to WrestleMania, that was a big deal. But I said, I'm wearing a lot of hats. I am the writer, I am the designer, and I am the director. I direct the motion capture. Though I was not allowed to be director in the credits, I was director of that mode because everything came to me. Any question that they had came to me. Whether it was on set, whether it was, doing audio stuff, whether it was Ukes questions, it all came to me. I said, I'm wearing 3 hats. Pay me, you're paying me for barely one hat. You're paying me a designer salary to do all this. I said, I want a little bit more money. I won't go into specifics, but they heard my pitch and they said, okay, we'll get back to you. I said, okay, thank you for listening. Went back to work. 1 week later, didn't hear anything. 2 weeks later, didn't hear anything. Third week after, I said, okay, I know the way the wind's blowing. Here's my resignation. I'm leaving. They said, well, this is not a good time for you to quit. I said, it's never a good time to quit. This job, this game, we make one game every 11 months. It's never a good time to quit. But it's my time. You guys let me down. Maybe I was a little hot-headed. Maybe I was a little short-tempered. But when you work as hard as I was doing that, you need to feel like you have the support of the team. You need to feel like you're being valued. And as fun as the game was and as rewarding as it was for me to put that out, I still needed to hear from my corporate overlords that they recognized what I was doing. So I left, but I stayed on to keep the cutscenes going through, which was fine by me. I liked doing it. I think I was working there maybe twice a week or maybe once a week in the office, and then I would go to to the audio company in Hollywood and work with them and that kind of thing. And when I left, they decided that they could put a warm body in my place, that any warm body would do. Anybody who, wrestling fan, sure, you work here, yep, go ahead, you do Road to WrestleMania now. And the first guy that they brought in to replace me, good friend of mine, I won't name him out though, he shadowed me for a while and then went back to the bosses and said, you expect me to do that? I can't do that. I'm not qualified to do that. Two people aren't qualified to do that. Like, he has this unique skill set, but they didn't want to hear it, so they took somebody else and plopped him in, and then we got WWE 12. I have not played WWE 12's Road to WrestleMania Mode. You just don't, it's like if you and your girlfriend broke up, right? And then your good buddy comes to you later and is like, hey, remember her? I saw her new boyfriend, and boy, he's a really built dude. You wouldn't want to hear that. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily want to hear that the game is good or bad, honestly, but it's hard to call it Road to WrestleMania without me there being the guy who made Road to WrestleMania. And I didn't make it myself. Ukes did so much work. I had good production managers the whole time, kind of making sure that I stayed on track. There are a lot of good people, a lot of good pieces have to come together to get a puzzle completed at the end of 11 months. And I was a big piece, but I was not the only piece. But the next piece that they had was not a writer, was not a wrestler, was not an actor, did not know his way around set, and the outcome was the outcome. So a lot of people say if something's not working with a game, let's say 2K20, when I did my video saying that budgets are going to be cut because of 2K20. So 2K21 is going to have less money. People say, well, why would they do that? If it's not doing well, you should give it more money. That's not how business necessarily works. That's not how the game industry works. If something is not delivering money, you don't put more money into it. You take money away from that because there's less return of investment. So when WWE 12 came out, I read reviews. While my Road to WrestleManias were driving review scores up, the new Road to WrestleMania was driving them down. So like where I would be getting maybe an 8, this game was getting maybe a 6. And most of the reason why seemed to be Road to WrestleMania Mode. It was not the same. It was not 5 or 6 stories of different characters going from before Royal Rumble to Road to WrestleMania. It didn't have the divergent paths. It didn't have, other stuff. Talk about the quality of writing or content all you want, or exciting moments or whatever. I can't speak on that, but the fact is it didn't have the kind of multiple endings, the multiple characters to the extent that mine did, and those sort of things. So it was no longer driving review scores. I guess it was no longer driving sales. And when that happens, something has to be done. You have to take that 17% of budget and say, well, this 17% is no longer getting us up to here. It's kind of bring us down. What do we do? Well, they cut it. That's what happens in business, in video games. And it's sad, it would have been nice. I mean, and between me and you, I had reached out. I said, you guys want me to write something? I'll write something. As a contractor, I had a couple dudes writing stories. I said, you want me to direct motion capture? I'm happy to do that. You will not find somebody better than me to do these jobs. While I was this one guy who did a lot of jobs, I was also really good. I was, there's that term, jack of all trades, master of none. I feel anyway that I was a master of all those traits that I was doing, of the writing, of the directing, So I'm happy to come and do that stuff. But at that point, they were like, no, we're good. We're good. So you had a guy directing motion capture who, from what I hear, was treating people like action figures, didn't really know, was not an athlete, was not a performer, didn't know how the human body works any more than like just watching it on TV or playing with action figures. So that's not how it works. So what happens in your head and what two people can actually do in real life is very different, and you have to be able to adapt to that. You have to know that beforehand, before you write these things. You need to bring people in who can do that stuff, and I think that some of that wasn't done. So yeah, Road to WrestleMania had to go. Another thing that I could do, and again, I feel bad about continually put myself over, but a thing that I could do is I could make original stories. I'll put my stories up against WWE programming. I will take my HBK JBL story that I wrote for SmackDown vs. Raw, Road to WrestleMania 2010, and I'll put that against the JBL, HBK has no money left, weird ass storyline that programming did. I'll put that up against that. And while the HBK JBL storyline made TV before the game came out, I submitted mine to them and was approved by them before JBL and HBK really had their feud on programming. And people probably don't remember that anyway because it was a crappy feud. But yeah, so you had the guy who was the motion capture guy, the acting guy, the legitimate pro wrestler guy, the experienced writer guy, and you lost all that, and it just happened that all those guys were me. So when I leave, you lose all that, and they didn't seem very motivated to seriously replace that. THQ was a company that would hire from within. A lot of the guys, Corey and Brian and Dan Ryan, who's on the development team, and a lot of the producers, the project managers, we called them, a lot of those guys came from QA, which is great. I'm all for hiring internally, but when you lose a key guy, you don't replace him with somebody from the minor leagues. You need a key guy back, or the whole thing falls apart. It's like when 2K recently sent Ukes home, they didn't have an answer for that. Visual Concepts, great developer, great team, great track record from the 2K game, from the NBA games, but they obviously struggled to get back up to the level that Ukes was at and that Ukes had been performing at for a long time. And you can't really blame them for that, but you can blame management for not putting the right people in to replace the people that they lost. And when Road to WrestleMania Mode lost me, they lost a lot. And what they replaced it with was arguably not a lot. And maybe they realized that, maybe they didn't. I don't know, I don't know what went on behind the scenes when I was there, much less after I'd left. But you've got to call that a key component in why Road to WrestleMania stopped. I made 3 of them. I left. They did one more. It wasn't Road to WrestleMania, and then they stopped. And like I was saying before about making original content, I would make original content. WWE ended up earning my respect, or I ended up earning their respect, and they kind of kept giving me more rope every time, more leeway. But then I could see how if you don't have a me, if you don't have a guy that can make creative, original storylines, you need to go a different route. So they went the historical recreation route, which I understand. In NBA 2K, it worked really well with the Michael Jordan stuff, and then after that was that 2K9, 2K10. 2K11 maybe, and then after that, uh, future NBA games would take other all-time greats and have you repeat their stuff. So I get that there was a precedent for that it made sense, but it's not it's not the same. Whether it's better or worse, I don't know, but it's not Road to WrestleMania, so they had to replace it with something else. And then they kept building up Universe Mode, and I can't speak on Universe Mode either, honestly. I mean, my life was Road to WrestleMania for 3 years, and after that, I haven't played a whole lot of wrestling games, to be honest. Some Fire Pro. I would pop in the new games every now and then when I'd get a comp copy from a buddy or whatever, check it out, and usually I would get annoyed at the bugs or the bad camera or whatever, and I'd play 1 or 2 matches, and then I'd be done. But yeah, I hate to tie my leaving to the demise of Road to WrestleMania, but I was spinning all those plates, man. I was keeping all those things up. And when you lose the motion capture one, and when you lose the creative one, and when you lose the design one, because something that's very key that is undervalued is when you meld gameplay with narrative. And what that means is that you have a story that's not just here's a cutscene and here's a match. When you tie that stuff in together, when you do the exclusive match commentary like I did, when you had maybe run-ins go on, or match conditions, or oh, now you're the guest referee and you have to knock both guys down and then drag Kennedy on top of Big Show, or that sort of thing. That's melding narrative with gameplay. And not a lot of people can do that. When WWE sent a writer in to me in 2009 to approve the stories, and he tried to rebook the territory as it is, he didn't know how to meld gameplay and narrative. He just thought, well, here's the story. That's not all it's about. It's not just about, here's the story I have, because you have to play that story and watch that story. So that's just another thing that is a high-level thing that maybe somebody just coming in off the audio department isn't necessarily going to know. I would have been happy to pass that info along if I had been asked. I was not asked. It seemed like when I resigned, they said, well, we don't need him anyway, nuts to him, which is unfortunate. I mean, I get it, I suppose, but if you really care about the quality of going forward, you probably want to retain the guys that are good, but then they maybe would have given me that extra 30% that I asked for before I resigned. So that's my story. That's what happened with Road to WrestleMania. Man, some great times, and sometimes I lament, even 10 years later, I lament leaving. If it was the best path for me, the best thing I could have done. But hey, I'm replaying those games now on my channel. I'm sure that This Gen Gaming will link to it, because he's always been good like that. He's always treated me really well. Please continue to support this channel, because he's a great guy and makes wonderful content and really puts a lot of heart and soul into it. Thanks for listening to me ramble, and enjoy the rest of the video.